I'm Moritz Hundhausen, head of the Brussels office for the Foundation for Family Businesses and Politics. Today, this sunny day here in Brussels, which is rare enough, we're going to meet Fabian Fechner. Fabian leads the Brussels office for Miele, a very well-renowned family business. Fabian studied in the universities of St. Gallen and the LSE London School of Economics and joined Brussels for over 12 years ago. The questions Fabian and I are going to discuss about mostly focus on bureaucracy, red tape, and how this may hinder the development and innovation at family businesses. So, stay tuned. Fabian, good seeing you.
Good to see you too.
Thanks for taking the time and participating in our question round today.
Fabian, in one word, working in Brussels is especially interesting for me because
of the diversity.
Fabian, if you had to describe the EU in one word, what would it be?
Historic.
In Brussels, a place that you especially enjoy to spend time in. Which is that?
Place van Cork with a coffee.
What makes working in Brussels and in the political bubble in Brussels personally interesting for you?
It's just extremely diverse, so hardly any 2 days are the same. You have very classic office days where you evaluate legislative proposals or you draft a position paper, and then you have meetings with other stakeholders at the associations or in other groups, and then you have what is kind of the main event, the meetings and discussions with the decision makers where we explain Miele and what the company stands for and try to get our key messages across. And in contrast to other lobbying bubbles like Berlin, for example, you have this huge diversity in terms of culture and languages, which makes it so exciting in Brussels.
From your personal point of view, why is the European Union so important?
Because in my opinion, Europe could very much be left behind on the international stage without the EU. That applies to the countries, to the nation states, as well as to companies such as Miele. We need the EU to have that weight internationally in an economic perspective, as well as when it comes, for example, to security policy. But this is something we should not take for granted, but try to defend and refine again and again. And this is also where we see ourselves. We want to drive the single market and contribute to the EU as an economic power. And on top of that, actually, kind of like a byproduct, you get the most valuable thing, which is the longest phase in history without an armed conflict among EU states.
Fabian, Brussels is often perceived as a source of bureaucracy. Rightly so, in your point of view?
From a company's perspective, the EU is, of course, a source of bureaucracy. But in my opinion, it's not necessarily because of the EU itself. It's more a question of who would be making the laws if the EU did not exist? So there would probably be another high-level institution, or it would be the member states. Because at the end of the day, without any kind of consumer protection, environmental protection, or competition law, it would probably not work. And then we would have it 27 times, which would certainly not be better. And at the moment, we are in an interesting phase because we see that the EU cannot only produce bureaucracy, but also is at least trying to eliminate bureaucracy.
And we hope that they will succeed. Fabian, Europe is facing economic and ecological challenges right now. From a perspective of an internationally operating family business like Miele, what challenges do you see on the path for your company to more sustainability? And what kind of support would you hope to see from Brussels, from the political level, in order to achieve the sustainability goals that Miele has set for itself?
What we need is a fair market that does not put locally producing companies at a disadvantage over importing companies. And at the same time, it's important that companies that are already very far in terms of sustainability are not overburdened with additional excessive regulation obligations. And in some cases, unfortunately, we see that at the moment. Right. At Miele, we have a very long tradition of sustainability, and we are firmly in favor of regulation that promotes sustainability, that serves sustainability. Let me take two examples, a negative and a positive one. The first one is the currently discussed Green Claims Directive. So the objective is absolutely the right one. You have to have reasonably backed up advertising claims when it comes to sustainability. But then in detail, it goes so far over the top that it will not work in practice and have the opposite effect. Companies will make less environmental claims in their advertising. In contrast, we see the current proposal which will abolish the mandatory paper-based instruction manuals that come with our appliances. And that's a much better approach towards sustainability because we will be able to save a considerable proportion of the 1,500 tons of paper we use every year and also reduce significantly our CO2 emissions.
Fabian, when it comes to developing environmental technologies, family businesses like Miele play a central role in these developments. What kind of obstacles do you see? What kind of regulatory burdens do you see to hamper this kind of innovative process? And what kind of reforms would you hope for the European Union to undertake in this regard?
Miele is a company that could not be more European. The vast majority of our production, sales and supply chain take place in the EU. And therefore we are a very committed supporter of harmonized EU rules and a smooth functioning of the single market. And this is what we need more from the European Union. Because very often the bureaucratic obstacles, they do not come from EU directives and regulations, but also from member state rules, for example, in the area of packaging or environmental labels. That's why we have very high hopes for the single market strategy and also hope that it will come true what Commission President von der Leyen promised in light of the current problems that we have with global trade, so that we have a stronger focus on what is right at our doorstep, the biggest common market with 450 million people.
Thank you so much for taking the time and talking to me today.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.